Alright, now that I've dealt with one Belmont, I shouldn't have to worry about any others. Hopefully by now they've learned not to fuck with me. Alright, back to the journey to Juiced. I may not know where they're hiding him from me, but I can already taste his essence. Oh, Juiced! Oh, darling, oh, Juiced! Where art thou? I am in need of you and in search for you. So please make yourself known to me before I ruin another country.
Perhaps a fair maiden is what you wish. I can be whatever you desire.
Or a banished demon who wishes to hunt you to the end of your days.
I can be whatever, Juiced. Just say the word and I'll be there.
Halt, creature of the night.
Oh, who the hell do I have to deal with now?
Stay halted, creature, for I am Simon Belmont of the Belmont clan, here to punish you for your misdeeds and wickedness, and potentially send you back to the hell that you crawled out of.
Oh, save me the speeches, I've heard all of them. You know, we can just make this easy and for you to move out of the way.
Nonsense, for it is the duty of my family, the Belmont clan, to quash all creatures of the night.
Okay, yeah, you made it pretty apparent that you're from the Belmonts. I think we all know that by now.
Silence, creature! I shall now, as they say, return you back to sender.
Alright, whatever, Simon. Give me your worst. Oh! Oh shit! Greetings, my Cherryful Chariots. And if you haven't been living under a rock recently, then chances are you understand that this video has been long overdue. In the grand and spectacular year of 2024, we have been blessed by Konami themselves with the Castlevania Dominus Collection, which I totally did not foreshadow because it was one of the only two options I could have foreshadowed in that one video I did. And, strangely enough, the foreshadowing continues, because apparently out of all games that they decided to put in this collection, they decided to put, you know, the standard ones. Dawn of Sorrow, Order of Ecclesia, and Portrait of Ruin. You know, the DS games. You know, hence the title. I know it's very creative. However, they decided to put an extra game this time around that I threw in there because I couldn't think of anything else, but can't believe that I actually got right. And now you may be asking, how did I ever find out about this? Well, I made a post about it. Because you see, there was a Nintendo Direct that very same day, where one of the announcements was in fact the Dominus Collection, and being the average Konami fan that I am, I decided to go full on apeshit and start posting about it non-stop to my friends and to my community saying how right I was. However, that's the boring side of events. Instead, let's discuss what actually happened and totally was not fictitious upon happening afterward. So, as it advertised, it was available the same day it was announced. And the second I was able to buy it, I bought it. Because, you know, scarcity. And when I first laid my eyes upon that menu, I discovered some of the 3 greatest Castlevania games known to date. But then I noticed something. There seems to be a lot more this time around. And there seems to be an extra page if I were to press, oh, son of a bitch, it's Haunted Castle. Yeah, to somehow everyone's befuddlement, the 4th and 5th game ended up being Haunted Castle Original and Haunted Castle Revisited, a remake of the worst Castlevania game known to mankind. And now I hear you saying, Cereza, Haunted Castle isn't a Castlevania game. It doesn't even have the name Castlevania in it. And my response is, I'm going to fucking strangle you, you little shit. Anyway, saying Haunted Castle is not a Castlevania game is like saying Super Princess Peach isn't a Mario game because Mario is not the main protagonist. Or saying that any of Mario's spin-offs aren't Mario games because they don't follow the 2D side-scroller formula. I think by this point you get the picture. So, in everything but name only, Haunted Castle is in fact a Castlevania game. Sort of. You see, Haunted Castle has the benefit of being the first arcade game in the Castlevania lineup. And being an arcade game, it has a little thing called What the Fuck Am I Looking At? So yes, out of all the 2D side-scroller Castlevania games, this one decided to be the most different in its approach. And that's really saying something, considering that Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest is literally pushing its limits with its very existence. Oh, and don't worry, we'll get to that someday. However, let's now focus on the worst thing since the fall of the Roman Empire. I'm going to do something unique with this, and review both games simultaneously, as I will go over these sections for both games individually, so then that way we can get a better understanding as to what makes or breaks either of these two games. Now remember, obviously one of them is worse than the other. However, to better understand how bad something is, we have to compare it to how it has been redone. Hence, why this is a double review and rather not just a singular review of the first Haunted Castle. Did I make myself clear? I hope so, because I don't want to explain that shit again. Now, without a further ado, let's revisit this Haunted Castle. To begin this haunting tale, we start with Simon Belmont and Selina getting married. And before anyone asks, yes, that is her name. I double-checked this ages ago. And who would be better to crash the party than the Belmont's long old friend, Dracula, who believes it is in his best interest to abduct this woman and take her back to his castle. Of course, Simon's not going to be taking any of this lying down, and gets his blue-headed ass into the fray and starts hunting for Dracula. Now this is where the gameplay starts and ooh, okay. Yeah, we're off to something. So already off the bat, the game is... It's something. For some reason, walking up the stairs feels a lot heavier than it needs to, and you're gonna see this a lot during gameplay, but the hits on anything can be very inconsistent. And when I started my playthrough, the idea was to not rewind or use the load and save feature all that much. However, that's very hard when the game decides to spawn enemies from Timbuk fucking 2 off screen, and then just magically throw them in your face when you're walking. And as you can probably imagine, that has led to a lot of fucking deaths. Some of them understandable, which is a miracle in this game, I know. To, what even the fuck did I even do wrong? There's going to be footage where I'm trying to attack an enemy, and the whip just magically does not hit the enemy, and then I get hit and die anyway. I'm telling you, hit detection in this game is bonkers, and that's really saying something considering Simon's Quest and Castlevania 1 came out before this. Oh no, and don't even get me started on your hitbox. My goodness, if the wall and projectiles were not an example of terrible hitbox, then I assure you, the bats that are attacking you when you're in the boss room is an even bigger example of what a bullshit hitbox you have in this game. Because for some reason, it's one of those Castlevania games where even if you're crouching, and the block wouldn't necessarily hit you if you were crouching, it would still hit you anyway. So it forces you into a weird position where you either have to stand up and hit it, or you have to jump and hit it, or potentially jump and miss, and then get hit again. And would you like to guess where on that ladder Haunted Castle falls exactly? That's right. It's in that fucking category where you jump, miss, and then you end up getting hit for your troubles. I'm telling you, this game is... oh, it's something. But now we can move on to the boss of the area, being Medusa, and holy hell, she is... I can't even call her a boss. She literally dies within seconds. Hell, the bats I had to fight just to freaking engage you were freaking tougher than you. I wish I can say there's a common trend with the bosses in this game, but frankly, there are none. But before I continue to pop a fucking blood vessel, let's talk about Revisited's version of Stage 1. And it's already apparent as to what changed. First off, the entire design of the stage is completely different, where as opposed to taking place in a sunset, it's more so you're taking place in a rabbity, swampish, foresty area, which you wouldn't get that impression from the original Haunted Castle, but hey, that's just me. Off the gate, we already have responsive controls, a better sub-item system, and a better candle system. by golly. On top of that, the enemies do not just randomly show up from the end of the screen to attack you, which again is a welcome change. Gee, it's almost as if the original Haunted Castle lacked one thing, and that was being fucking fair. And look, I get it, it was a game that was meant to suck up all your fucking coins at the arcade machine, but come on, there's a difference between being fun and bullshit and just being unfun and bullshit all the damn time. The only thing that didn't really improve, because there wasn't really much need of an improvement, was the soundtrack. The original Haunted Castle already had a good soundtrack going for it, so to really, Haunted Castle Revisited just ups the ante on the soundtrack and just makes it sound better. Which I like both OSTs equally, however there are some iterations of the song that I prefer more so than the other. However, we'll get to that when we get to it. And due to the fact that Revisited is actually a fair fucking game, I didn't end up dying at all. Because God forbid the original game gave you any lick of fairness. Anyway, to end this section off, we're gonna talk about Medusa, where she actually sees not just a graphical improvement, but a gameplay one as well, as she actually finally feels like a damn boss. She actually tries to hit you with her two arms via a little strike that she does, she still sends out the little snakes after you, and she still does the tail swipe move, and to my knowledge she still sends out bats after you. So it's not as egregious as the original, but still I think I would have preferred if the bats left. However, the boss is definitely a signature improvement over its original counterpart, as now you don't get to spam whatever sub-item you're using to instantly fucking demolish her. I swear, these bosses are really something. Anyway, with both iterations of Stage 1 covered, I think it's best to move on to Stage 2. Already off the bat, I want to jump off the nearest cliff. So, immediately upon starting this fucking stage, you would notice that there is a skeleton that you're supposed to hit. However, something that you would not become immediately apparent of until it happens is that this skeleton decides to summon a fucking skeletal spirit once it dies, and then immediately home in on you like a fucking missile without so much of a second for you to understand what the fuck happened. I am telling you, these enemies are some of the most annoying in the original fucking game, and for the sole reason of robbing you of a single bar of your health. I swear to God they're annoying. All because the original programmers decided to make them attack you instantly instead of giving you the chance to actually be able to react to them. And hell, even to my understanding, there's no way to avoid them. Even I tried to crouch in order to avoid them upon attacking them, and that did fuck all. However, there is also something in the stage that I feel like is warranted of mentioning, and it's the fact that for some reason this game decided to give Simon an item system, where through each stage, or every other stage, the game will give him a random item that is supposedly better than the whip. For example, in this stage, it's the Morgenstern, or flail. And honestly, I do not see any reason as to why the Morgenstern is there. There was no noticeable upgrade when I picked it up, so honestly, I'm just gonna chunk it up to it just being like an aesthetic thing, and simply just move on with my day. Oh, but we haven't even gotten past the first minute of the stage yet. You see, once you defeat all that humble bumble, you have to then go down a flight of stairs, and that flight of stairs leads to two platforms. And by this point, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing there. I initially thought that I was supposed to go to the lower platform and do some, parkour, but that only just led to my death by drowning. So I then began to contemplate as to what the hell I was supposed to do. Keep in mind, the footage of the game you're seeing right now is not my first time playing Haunted Castle. If anything, this is probably my second. So the fact that I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck exactly I'm supposed to be doing on my second go around is astonishing. However, I would soon realize that the game wanted me to go on the upper platform. If that's what they wanted, why the fuck did you give me the second platform to begin with? I swear, the illusion of choice. But once I go through that and go past a few mermen who are also annoying as shit, because if you don't hit them immediately upon rising, they will hit you with a fucking spitball, and going past a few fucking boulders that keep randomly appearing from out of fucking nowhere, we are then greeted with a section that made me contemplate exactly what the hell I'm supposed to do. And I'm gonna ask you, the audience, what do you think I was supposed to do when arriving to this section? Was it A, wait for a platform to arrive, B, Wait for a platform to randomly show up out of nowhere. C. Do nothing. Or D. Walk on the background. I shall give you a few seconds to contemplate your answer. I changed my mind when it only took a second. We're continuing. The answer, despite any rational thinking, was D. For some reason, they decided to put textures of the ground that match the background. And I don't know if you know this, or maybe it's just me because I was being an idiot, but I did not know that I was supposed to jump there because I thought that I was going to jump into my death. And in case you were wondering, it took me dying and dying again to figure that one out. The second death was very much bullshit. I fucking hate that stupid boulder. However, soon we move on to the area with the moving platforms, and honestly, it wasn't that bad. Except for the fact where, despite putting this enemy in a time freeze, apparently projectiles are not affected by this, at least not in the manner you'd think. So when I put the enemy in stop time when they fired a shot, it killed them. However, when I tried to walk over to the stairs to, progress onto the level, I ended up getting hit, and this happened after I had already hit the projectile to ensure my safe passage. I'm telling you, this game wants me to become insane. May I also state that the first time I encountered a mudman, I immediately died because his double decided to spawn on top of me. I fucking hate this game. In fact, no, let's watch another time of me dying to these stupid things. By this point, I had already thrown away my rule on using the rewind feature and just started using it haywire beyond this point, because I have started to become fucking sick of having to replay the levels over and over and over again, just to die the same stupid death over and over again. Then we enter the fucking skeleton swamp with the second boss of the area, and like Medusa, he dies because of cheese. Who knew all you needed was a fucking time stopwatch, and boom, he's fucking biting the dust now. No wonder in fucking Revisited they removed it. But yes, upon ending the stage, you walk towards the castle entrance and enter the castle proper. Now that we've gone through everything I can feasibly imagine in the original, let's go over to Revisited. Besides visual upgrades, because we already know who has what beat in what department, the beginning area with the stairs actually now has a reason to go to the bottom platform, and that's to actually get candles, which strangely were gone in the original. Go figure. Another cool, neat detail is that throughout the background of the entire stage, you can see the boss swirling around in the background, which to me is a very cool detail. No comment on the mermen though, I still think they're pretty annoying, because now in this version, instead of one hit, they take two, and I guess frankly, that's the way that it is because the fishmen in this game are actually a lot kinder to you than they were in the original, so I guess I can take it or leave it. But yeah, notice how in this section, I can immediately tell where I'm supposed to go. Anyway, moving on from that, since the time stop isn't a mechanic in this game anymore for obvious reasons, you can't cheese this enemy like you were able to in the original, which is a bloody shame, but hey, they made it actually competently easier, so I guess I'll take what I can get. The biggest change of the area though is that they added an in-between room between that and when you actually face the Mudmen, where it's a vertical room where you're supposed to be fighting more of these whatever the hells they are in order to get to the Mudmen area. And again, another change they did was that the Mudmen do not create clones of themselves on top of you. What a welcome change! It's almost as if removing the bullshit actually made it competent. And on top of that, the Mudmen actually go down pretty easy. Oh my god, I needed this! But yeah, the Mudmen for the most part either go down in 2 hits or 3. Thank goodness! However, moving past the skeletal swampy area, we finally make it to the boss. And holy hell, like with Medusa, they actually make this boss really competent. I can't speak for the Haunted Castle original one, but I can speak for this, as it's actually a bit of a challenge. Where you see, he actually shoots fireballs, you can't time stop him so you can't freeze him in place, he actually moves around a decent part of the stage, however, the game decides to be forgiving and allow that the only part that can actually make contact with you is its head, so as long as you're not hitting the head, you're fine. Additionally, I actually felt like there was some Monica strategy there, where I had to carefully choose where I went and how I went about the battle. So, honestly, this is one of the more better improvements when it comes to the bosses in this game. Oh, but I know I'm gonna be biting my tongue with that statement. Anyway, with that aside, and all my grievances and my compliments to Stage 2 aside, we shall now move on to the next stage. Stage 3. And already off rip, I want Walter to fucking shoot me with the demonic Magido so my suffering can be ended. Why is it that I have to listen to bloody tears in another game? This is definitely a me thing, as you probably won't find many people who have this much of a hate boner for bloody tears, but oh my goodness, when you've listened to it as much as I have, you really just wanted to just disappear into the ether. Like, I'm sorry, there's just no definitive way of making this song good unless you're Rondo Blood who can actually manage to make it good. However, seconds after that mild-mannered complaint, we get introduced to the Fleamen, who, oh my god, if this isn't the most annoying incarnation of them, I cannot even imagine what the most annoying iteration of them can be. Oh, and on top of the fact that your health does not recover upon going into the next stage, makes this experience oh so much better, because I'm sure we're all aware, the designers and producers and coders for this fucking game were all paid with fucking bananas! Oh, and it gets better, because with the additional bonus that the Fleamen act like fucking Fleamen and hop around all over the place because, you know, fuck you, on top of that, they do not take one hit to kill, they take two! And imagine my surprise when I tried killing them and expecting them to go down in one hit, as they would in every other fucking Castlevania game. But no! They take two! Again! Actual monkeys! Again, that's ignoring the caveat that Fleamen are notoriously hard to hit. So pair that all up together, and you have by far the worst start to a stage since, oh, I don't know, the beginning of Castlevania 2. Oh, but it gets better, because then the game has the funny idea of doing this. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I flipping out? Did somebody on the game dev team flip out? I don't know who the fuck is flipping out, but I know someone for damn sure is flipping out. I'm sorry. What? Words cannot even begin to comprehend what I was thinking during that, but I can certainly tell you, it was most definitely confusion. Oh, and of course, the fucking harpies have terrible hitboxes. Who would have guessed? You can even see that I was so baffled that with the rewind feature, I demonstrated the bullshit that was happening on our very screens today. Yes, I would like to take questionable game decisions for 300, but no, it gets better. Because upon hitting the last harpy, it ends up doing a mutual exchange where both I and it are dead, however I get transported into the realm of the living. And you would think that I would be safe beyond that point. The answer is no. Honestly, I don't know what to expect from a game where the actual fucking food attacks you. And once again, this game reminds me that this is a classic Mania game, where if you even think about taking the stairs without any modica thinking, you will be prime target for the pickings, and you will immediately get a game over. My apologies. I mistook this for a game. I should have mistaken it for an actual alternative to waterboarding. But no, then we get to the boss, and this is the first time where the boss is actually challenging, but not for the reasons that you think. Because you see, the boss mainly decides to high jump throughout the entire arena, while fucking Fleamen choose to enter the bout and try to kill you from any which side. So, of course, me being the fucking Chad vampire hunter that I am, I have to play a fucking juggling act between Sir Hopsalot and fucking Flea Hunchback. There is no in-between, and there's no winning with my sanity intact.
Oh, but don't worry, guys. You get a fucking sword. Isn't that fucking cool?
Let's just move on from this god-abandoned game and move on to Revisited. And like the broken record that I am, again, who would have guessed that this version would be superior? Except for the knights this time around, they strangely look a bit, plump? Yeah, that's the word I'm gonna be going with. Plump. So, the plump knights aside, this game actually fixed one of the cardinal sins from the original, and that was finally making Fleeman one-hits. So now peace has been restored to the world, finally, at last. Also, call me crazy, but there is a reference to Vampire Hunter D on the stage, and I think it's pretty cool. They've removed the fucking drug trip that was in the original, which, thank goodness, I don't think I need to see any more of that. And they decided to sprinkle harpies around the entire stage, which, again, welcome change. They also decided to change one of the corridors into a platforming area, where you have to balance yourself on different chandeliers. So, similar to what you would see in something like Super Castlevania 4. In fact, now that I think about it, this area has many inspirations from both Castlevania Bloodlines and Super Castlevania 4, where they took elements from the Versailles stage and added elements from the entrance hall into this stage. Which, if you ask me, any representation of the Versailles stage is absolutely needed, considering that hardly anything ever talks about it or even acknowledges that it once existed. And then you have the eyeballs, which weren't really much of a cause of concern, but at least they're less how they were the original, which the more disassociated this game is from the original, honestly, the better. Speaking of dissociating, the boss of the area. This boss is actually pretty difficult and pretty challenging, and it's a warm shake-up from what it once was. The idea to make a boss out of cathedral stained glass is pretty interesting, so I'm kinda glad that the idea was actually exercised in this version. Will say though, this is one of those bosses that once you get the hang of them, it's pretty much cakewalking afterwards. So although it's not the most memorable boss, it doesn't really leave a stain or an impact of any kind, it is a fun time when you're fighting him, I won't deny that. But now the age-old question. Does the original Haunted Castle get better beyond this point? I sure fucking wish it did! Now we arrive at stage 4, and this was finally the stage that caused me to perform a Mortal Kombat fatality on a frog. Let me simply start out by saying, if this stage was not in an awful game, it would have been the best thing about this game. However, the problem is that it had the unfortunate reality of being born in Haunted Castle, and now is stained by the fact that the enemies in this stage are absolutely some of the worst I have ever seen in my fucking life. Case in point, the Mummy. For some benounced reason, the second that the mummy spawns into frame and actually is moving around in the world, it launches a bandaged projectile towards the bottom of your feet so fast that you can't even bother to react to it. It is one of the most mind-numbing decisions that I have ever seen a developer make for a game. Why would you expect the average player of this fucking game to have such reaction speeds quicker than Usain Bolt can run? I'm telling you, none of this makes any sense. So, my solution, you may ask? Kill them before they even have the realization that they were just born into the world. The fact that I have to even strategize about killing a fucking mummy is telling of this game's poor enemy design. Oh, and don't even get me started on the platforms, because this is one gripe I have with, like, ancient Castlevania games, is that when you jump, you have to commit full stop to your jump. If you don't, you might as well just end up in some random fucking abyss somewhere. Because apparently the concept of stopping midair is very foreign to games like these, so you end up just falling to your death many times. Oh, and in this stage they brought back the Fleeman, because of course they fucking did. And on top of that, anything I said about the Fleeman, it basically carries over in this section as well as the fact that they decided to put the Fleeman in the worst fucking spots imaginable, so when you so much as do the crime of entering its vicinity, you will immediately get ransacked and hit before you can even realize what the hell happened. And keep in mind, this is coming from someone who, once again, this is their second playthrough, so I practically know what's going on at this point. There has never been a Castlevania game where I've had to use this level of methodical thinking just to even walk. Usually this is done for jumping or doing a risky maneuver, not for the simple action of living. Oh yeah, and the crows. They're here too, and they're annoying, because why aren't they? Oh, but no, look at this clip, where I am trying to get down to the level of the flea man so I can fucking kill it and move on. Look how quick the fucking flea man turns in my direction before I even landed. You mean to tell me I'm expected to have reaction times as quick as this little bastard? No, you have me fucked up. But no. Everything that I had just gone over pales in comparison to the shenanifuckery that is this stage's boss. What in the fuck is this? I have never been so confused on a boss that I was supposed to kill and or hit in my life. Am I supposed to hit the head? No, I'm not, apparently. Am I supposed to hit the arms? No, even worse, I get damaged for it. Imagine my frustrations during my first playthrough of this. And to this day, I still don't know exactly what the fuck I'm supposed to be hitting. Because the hitbox on this motherfucker is so weird, and every time you try to get close to him to actually hit him, the game will just magically pull him away, so then that way you're stuck between this magical session of tug-of-war between you and the boss trying to get a fucking hit in. It is mind-numbing. I swear, I've never seen a better case for schizophrenia in my life. The best part is that sub-items don't do shit against this. How? Why would you give me sub-items and then not work? I am baffled by decisions such as these. And I forgot to mention this like 3 bosses ago, but the game doesn't give you any indication whether or not the boss has any health or when you're even close to killing him. So you're practically just shooting at the dark at this point, but you kill him, and then the world is saved from my now developed stage 15 schizophrenia. Now, let's tune in on the revisited side of things. Surprise to literally fucking no one, it is better than the fucking original. Shocker, I know. In fact, it is so delectably delicious that the fucking mummies in this stage have gone from skinny as hell to chronically obese. Any of the enemies that I've mentioned in this stage have gotten a rework, which means that any bullshit that they might have had before is now completely gone. So, we thank the Konami gods once again for giving us something good. But the gods keep on giving, because they fucking reworked the entirety of the fucking stage 4 boss. And holy hell, it is one of the best bosses in this game. In fact, it is the best boss in this game. I don't know how they turned one of the worst bosses from the original into the best in the revisited version, but holy crap, it's peak cinema. The problem with the original is that, well, everything was the fucking problem. So, fixing everything, giving the boss a makeover, giving it a, distinctable hit point, and actually giving it a health bar actually goes a long way. And dodgeable attacks and some character would be nice too, which, as you can see, works in the long run. Something I haven't mentioned up to this point, but Stage 4 has probably one of the best songs in the game, at least in my professional opinion. Maybe you can make an argument for the first stage's theme, or Lullaby of the Devil. However, me personally, I think Basement Melody is the best song to come out of this game. However, speaking of game, we still have like 2 stages left, so let's move on to Stage 5. And like fucking clockwork, bullshit ensues. We start the stage off with a fucking elevator section that is completely unavoidable, and the fact is that you cannot go through it without getting hit, because God forbid you have reaction speeds the same or as equivalent to Sonic the Hedgehog or the Flash. Oh no, children, but believe me, it gets better! Because now in this stage there are floating skeleton ghost heads that spawn at random and choose to dart at you like a fucking missile wherever they may be. And they are definitely annoying because they show up at the worst fucking moments possible, And on top of that, this was the stage that made me realize that the fucking attack button is fucking moot. Because despite clearly hitting this fucking mummy for the second time, which would have netted me the kill, it just magically chose not to connect, and I end up getting hit anyway. So, yeah, what's worth any more fucking brain cells at this point? Oh, and they also come from out of nowhere, meaning you have little time to react, as shown in this fucking clip. No, and it wasn't enough that by the time I got to the fucking boss, the game had to send me one final fuck you my way. However, speaking of the boss for this stage is Frankenstein's monster, and like with many things in this fucking game, he is full of shit. Thought you're far enough from his attack? No, he'll just hit you anyway. You think you evaded the fucking roof debris that he summons by hitting on whatever the hell this is? No, you'll get hit anyway. What is it with Castlevania games and having the Frankenstein's monster boss be so ridiculously bullshit that it honestly makes me want to claw out my veins from my wrists? And I regret to inform you, but this is not the first Frankenstein's monster boss that made me want to do that. In fact, Portrait of Ruin's Frankenstein's monster boss is infamous for being stupendously ridiculous. Sure, if you're an onlooker, the fucking machine gun for arms and the fucking missiles look cool. However, when you're actually in there having to fight him, it's not fun at all. Order of Ecclesia has the same deal when it comes to the monster that's in the Mystery Manor. So as I've stated, the creature in the Castlevania series has a bit of a record for being bullshit, but this one probably takes the cake, more so because he comes from a broken fucking game that refuses to function half the time. Oh, and sometimes the sub-items work, sometimes they don't. 'Cause, you know, things we expect in supposedly polished games. Thank goodness this fucking collection exists, because if I had to play this natively, with no rewind feature, or no save state feature, I honestly think I would have become the villain of Earth's history. Anyway, with that aside, let's look at the revisited version of the same stage. Wow, go figure. It's... You know, I can only say the same thing so many damn times. Of course, it's obviously better than the fucking original. What do you expect from me? The elevator at the beginning is marginally slower and actually gives you enough time to, you know, process what's going on around you, so you can actually do things effectively. In the part of the stage where you would have fought a flea man, there is now a swinging axe and a axe armor. On top of that, the ghosts that fly around now take 2 hits to fucking put down, which I don't know how I feel about that, but at least they don't show up from the corners of your screen going at the speed of sound, so there's that. However, one of the biggest changes, and I think it's for the positive, is the boss fight that happens in the stage, where as though it's still the creature, he actually incorporates Frankenstein's corpse from the original and uses that as a fun gimmick within the boss fight, where when Frankenstein is now active, he'll push a lever to electrocute the creature to give him like a boost of invincibility. And in order for you to stop that, you need to hit Frankenstein and then turn back around to hit the creature. It's a fun thing, I assure you. And the falling debris from the ceiling is actually dodgeable this time around. Thank goodness. The only noticeable change that I'm not exactly sure if I'm a fan of is the addition of the Fleamen to the fight. I know the creature and the Fleamen have been notoriously paired up together in the Castlevania series, but I've never been a fan of that dynamic personally, but it's neither here nor there. It doesn't really take away or add anything to the boss fight. I just feel kind of indifferent to it. Honestly though, it's leagues better than what we had in the original, because at least you can actually, you know, not die. And it's a bit comical I say this, because the creature is the only boss in Revisited that I've actually died to. Aside from the boss in Stage 6, but we'll get to it, and you'll pretty obviously see why I did. Speaking of Stage 6, we should finally move on to that, so we can be done talking about this rotten, stupid game. I'm not even going to fucking tell you why this stage is by far the worst in the entire fucking game. Because you can clearly fucking see why. There is absolutely no way that someone going into this game blind is going to not die at least 5 times trying to do this stage. And only the bridge section. Because the amount of times you would have to die in order to get this part of the stage crystal clear perfect is astonishing, and honestly, I'm surprised the devs looked at this and said, you know, this is great stage design. We will be applauded 30 years from now. Well, I've come 30 years from the future and I can definitely tell you the kitchen is on fucking fire. Who thought this was a good idea? Granted, sounds cool. However, when the rest of the game has been nothing but a slugfest of shenanifuckery and boombaloozas, what makes you think that this, in this game, would be the pinnacle of making this game any of all redeemable? Let alone if we're under the assumption that it's absolutely peak and works as intended. Because frankly, I can tell you this, it fucking doesn't. If you get hit once, or maybe even twice during this, it's game over. You're not reaching the end. You might as well just quit while you're there. So you have to play this crystal perfect if you want to get to the final boss. Which, let's talk about the final boss real quick. Dracula is a fucking joke. He is the most underwhelming boss I have ever fought in my life. Especially when we just came from stage 4 and 5, where their bosses were significantly harder, more so because of the bullshit factor. But this is laughable. I could laugh my way to the fucking bank with this. However, before my malice begins to accumulate and then I explode like a fucking bomb, let's move on to Haunted Castle Revisited and see how this version of the stage fares in comparison to what the fuck I just witnessed. Yup, the stage is practically the same, however, obviously it's got the visual glow up, and oh my god, it doesn't fall when you step on it. Well, some of them do. However, even if you do fall into the lake that is below, you will actually be respawned to the last point you stepped on before the falling bridge. Which means that this game is as gracious as Simon's Quest, where no matter where you died, the game will be charitable and give you a second chance, which is something Haunted Castle doesn't do. When I first realized this, I was awestruck, because I wasn't expecting to be given forgiveness, especially from the very abusive relationship I just got out of with the original Haunted Castle. And on top of that, they actually put enemies that weren't just bats that annoyed the fuck out of you. Who would have thunk? So finally, the bridge section is actually redeemed in this version, because it's not fucking dog ass. But now that I've discussed the bridge section, how does Dracula's fight fare? And believe it or not, it's actually very fucking challenging. The first phase is kind of what you would expect. Granted, I didn't expect for Dracula to fucking shiv me in the behind, but that's what this version of Dracula does, I guess. He spawns 4 daggers and throws them like fireballs, even though he could have just summoned fireballs, but hey, whatever. Then the second phase comes around, and it's actually far different from the original, where he now has 4 heads that all do 4 different attacks. One of the heads shoots a fucking laser, the other summons hands to crush you, the other summons pillars of fire from the floor, and the last head summons a line of bats to attack you on the floor. Overall, this seems pretty simple stuff, but believe it or not, it's kind of hard to dodge when you're focusing on the orb that you're supposed to be hitting. Oh right, in this version, in order to deplete Dracula's health, you have to hit the orb, not the heads. Which, welcome change for those who want a more challenging experience. Me personally, I think it was a good change, more so because anything is better than whatever the fuck this was. Anyway, after defeating Dracula, we now get to be with our PNG stock image of a wife, and the game ends. Now, the synopsis for both games. I think we all understand where my synopsis of the original Haunted Castle is. It is by far one of the worst Castlevania games I have ever played, and it's equivalent to games such as Circle of the Moon, Castlevania 64, Legends, and Lords of Shadow. So, if anyone wonders where that is comfortably sitting, it's hitting at the near fucking bottom. Now, for Haunted Castle Revisited, I think this game is actual quality, and it matches the same kind of quality that you would see in games like Castlevania Chronicles and Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth. My one gripe with the game, though, is that I feel like stylistically, it doesn't really match. There are things that are in the game where they just don't feel like they come from the same thing. Like, it pulls a Dawn of Sorrow, where a lot of the areas feel like they're just taken from random low-quality images, and that's fine for some things. However, frankly, as someone who finds the beauty in sprite artwork and sprite backgrounds to be very beautiful and amusing, I just think it's a shame that they chose to make this like weird mix of realism with sprite art style try to work. And in some ways it does, and it looks cool, but in other cases it just feels like super off. And I just hope that if they do wish to continue making remakes of these Castlevania games, that they either choose a realistic, I guess, style, or they choose more something like Castlevania Chronicles or the Symphony of the Night approach, where everything in the game is sprites or 3D assets that look like sprites. The music in both games does not fault, it's one of the best qualities in both games, and for Simon's design, it's definitely something interesting, where I don't think I would have ever seen blue-haired Simon again. But hey, if we can get a remake to one of the worst Castlevania games known to mankind, then I guess anything is possible. I just kinda wish we got a remake of fucking Dracula X. Oh, that game is awful. But those are all my thoughts of both Haunted Castle and Haunted Castle Revisited. What are your thoughts on these two games? Do you like them, or do you hate them? I want to hear your opinions in the comment section down below. And remember, to like, share, and subscribe, because me putting myself on the front lines of actual agony and torture is not for my own amusement, it is for yours. So if you want to support the channel and support my mental health after this, you may do what I just asked you to do for me. That being, liking, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell. Anyway, my name is Cereza Valentine, and if I recall, I think I had a duel to get back to.
I must admit, Vampire, your capabilities are far stronger than I could have anticipated. You have me outmatched.
Well, good. Glad you finally realized that small little fact. In fact, I'm surprised you even put up a fight that hard at all. I mean, to be fair, Trevor's a lot more fearsome and more of a warrior than you could ever be. But, regardless, I would have thought you would have been blown like a leaf right about now.
Huh. Never underestimate the blood of the Belmont clan, as it will be your undoing.
Oh, I wish it could undo me, alright. And once he does, he'll be mine for an eternity, doing as I please and what he wishes me to do for him for an eternity to come. And then, imagine just the spawn we can create. Oh, the magnanimous, wonderful... I'm ruining the moment, aren't I?
I'm afraid so.
Well, any final words, Simon Belmont, before I move on?
Only this. I shall smite you down with evil's bane, the Vampire Killer, given to me by my descendants and their descendants before them. I shall use this whip to slay you and your kind forever, until one day the dawn can finally slay the night.
Oh, that's adorable. Demonic Magido.